Hi, I'm Patrick, and this is the Mach-E vlog. Today we're going to go over home charging for your Mustang Mach-E or other EV and go over tips, tricks, and recommendations. So let's go. So first things first, we are going to talk about getting a circuit installed. Yes, you can actually charge an EV or the Mach-E using what we call a level 1 charger, and that's using like a regular plug, like a 120 volt plug that you would plug any appliance into. Unfortunately, that only gives you about 3 miles of range per hour. And when we first moved in here, we survived on one for a couple of months, but we worked from home and we still had to supplement that with some charging outside the home because it's very hard to live just on level 1 charging. So for the rest of this video, for the most part, we're gonna focus on level 2 charging, and that's 240 volt charging, and it's a little bit more detailed in getting it set up and your options. So the first thing that you wanna get done is to get a 240 volt outlet installed in your garage or outside if that's what you have available. There are a lot of options for doing that. I recommend getting an electrician and one that is definitely familiar with doing EVs, and just telling them I need an EV charging outlet or a NEMA 1450 outlet, and tell them where you want it to be installed, and then they should be able to handle the rest. If they start coming back and asking a lot of questions, you may want to find a different electrician. That should be enough to get them started. A lot of people are wondering about how much does it cost to get a EV charging outlet installed, and it varies quite a bit. And a lot of that is because you're running cable through the walls, so an electrician has to do a lot of work, plus the copper costs a lot of money. So there are some variable costs in there. You can do something like run your EV off of a dryer outlet. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I recommend doing a NEMA 1450. That's basically the standard size plug. A lot of people call it the RV outlet plug. So it's sort of like the industry standard, and you might as well go ahead and go for that. One of the considerations that you might have is, will your panel support another 50 amp circuit on it? I know ours wouldn't, so we sort of got around that. First of all, we disabled our electric outlet for our dryer. We have a gas dryer, so we disabled that outlet. That was a 30 amp outlet, but then we were still limited. We couldn't do a full 50 amp outlet. So we put in a 40 amp circuit, which is going to meet our needs. And then at a future date, we may have to upgrade our panel and the service to our house. So there are some flexibility and some options out there. If you do need a new panel, if you do need more service coming from your energy provider, that's where your real big expenses come into play. But for the most part, you can expect to spend around $500 to get the outlet installed. And I do want to show you, we're going to walk over here. I'm going to show you the outlet that we have installed, show you what it looks like, and a couple of tips about that. So here is our outlet for our charging setup. It basically was installed when we had our solar installed. The conduit was run up into the attic and then down into here. I actually recommend, if at all possible, you get yours hardwired and you get your charger hardwired. The biggest reason for that is safety, security. So these outlets here, it's basically just another connection point. It's another point of failure. You probably won't notice anything for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but you never know. And it's just like another point of failure. If you do have to put in an outlet, and we chose to put in an outlet because we test chargers out for the YouTube channel, make sure you're getting a high quality one. You want to make sure that your electrician is getting one that's probably like $60 to $80 from a company like Hubbell. You don't want the like $10 Home Depot outlet. Those generally are not like meant for being used by an EV charger for long periods of time. And it might be good, like if you have some type of appliance, or you're hooking up your RV for a couple of hours at a time, very, very low usage. But an EV will literally max out this circuit for 5-6 hours a night, every single night, for as long as you own your EV. So you want something very durable if you're going the plug-in route. We have ours set here. because because we swap multiple times. But if you can do hardwired, they'll, basically set it up and you can have them also just go ahead and connect up your charger. I used to recommend, doing the plug because you can always, it gives you the flexibility to swap out your charger, but really it's not that big of a deal. The chargers have very good warranties and whatnot. And safety, I think, is your biggest priority, especially you're going to spend like tens of thousands of dollars on a car. You're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on your house. You don't want to skimp on safety and security for your house. So leave it to the electricians to handle that. And don't, have your brother-in-law or sister-in-law that sort of does, electrical work on the side. You want somebody that's certified, and just understand you're gonna invest in this. It's gonna be like $500 or $1,000 to get this set up, but go ahead and make that investment. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and we can sort of answer those. But I'm gonna probably tell you, ask the electrician because they are the experts. Okay, now let's take a look at some actual chargers, and I'll give you some recommendations on what to look for in general for charging or EVSEs. The technical term, if you ever hear, is EVSE. These aren't actual chargers. The charger is actually on board the Mach-E or other EV. But generally, like if you go to Home Depot or if you go online, you're going to search for EV charger, and this is what's going to show up. But the EV nerds among us, you don't have to make a comment. Yes, I know this is an EVSE. And I was just going to show you this one. This one actually we've been using it to charge the Nissan Leaf that's outside. It's quite old, but you'll notice this is what I was talking about. This is a level 1 charger. So it has a 120 volt outlet, and it's sort of fine for the Nissan Leaf, but it has a very small battery compared to the Mach-E. The Leaf fast charges differently than the Mach-E, but it does slow charge with the same J1772 connector and works just fine. Let me set this down real quick. And the one that you're probably familiar with if you have a Mach-E is the portable charger that used to come with the Mach-E. It's now like one of the options. And it has the level 1 plug that you can put on here or the level 2 plug. I like to carry this with me no matter where we're at. I usually keep it up here in the front. If you'll notice, I actually also have the tire inflator kit up here in the front. And that's mainly so like if we're on a road trip, I have my luggage in the back of the car and my little essentials of like the inflator or this charger are up here in the front. Makes it very easy to get to. This one that comes with the Mach-E is limited to 32 amps. And what that means basically is like you're not going to get the full 40 amps or 48 amps that the Mach-E supports, but 32 amps. In real terms, for a lot of people, 32 amps and above is going to get you enough charge overnight to get a full charge on your car. So I wouldn't worry too much about the fact that this is only 32 amps. It's been perfectly fine for our needs when we've needed that. We have that one on the wall limited to 32 amps as well. So I'm going to put this one in here, and this is what we call a dumb charger. It's basically you plug it in, and if the car is ready to charge, it's just going to start charging. There's no Wi-Fi, there's no scheduling built into the charger or anything like that. Here is another charger that we're going to look at real quick, and I want to show you this one because, again, this is another level 2 charger. I have the protector on the plug. But if you notice, this is the new NACS connector that's on this. This is very new. It's from Electron. We're going to do a full review on this, but it's really cool. So if you don't know, starting in 2025, new Ford EVs are going to start coming with this type of connector on the car. But you can still use this with the Mach-E right now using an adapter. So here is a Tesla to J1772 plug, and I can just put the adapter on here. It's really tight, so let me see if I can do it while I'm balancing everything. And it clicks in, and then now I could charge a Tesla with this or a 2025 Ford EV. But I can charge the current Mach-E or other EV using this type of connector. Separately, I sort of recommend getting one of these adapters. We'll put a link down in the description. It can be very useful, like when you go to a hotel or some other place that has what they call a Tesla destination charger. You can use this adapter to charge the Mach-E at level 2. This will not work at any supercharger. There will be an adapter coming the first part of 2024 that will allow that, but it won't be this one, but you'll probably still need this one as well, even after that adapter comes out. So very interesting and gives you some flexibility. Now, you may wonder, like, why would you want to buy one of these? This is sort of like, it could be like future proofing, so that you would go ahead and get this type of connector on the charger, so that, down the road, you don't have to replace it, once all your other cars. Or if you have a Tesla and a like a Mach-E, you could buy this and have this adapter. And it gives you some flexibility. Tesla actually sells one that's sort of like a home magic dock, which supports both connectors. Very good option. It's a bit pricier, but it's also, something to consider. Again, this is what we call just a dumb charger. You plug the car in, it's going to start charging immediately. There's no Wi-Fi connectivity. What I recommend for your home usage is to get one that's permanently mounted on the wall. This one is, by the way, it's meant to be portable, but they do have like a bracket so that you can mount it, and you can really mount the portable Mach-E charger as well. But when we really are talking about like permanently mounted chargers that are not portable, we're talking about stuff like this. And here's one of our favorite ones, Autel. We've used this one quite a while. It's been great for us. We've actually tried out a couple of different Autel chargers. This one can be hardwired, so it supports up to 48 amps of charging. It's smart. It has it so that you can use a RFID card to start charging. So like if you're in a townhome or something like that and you're sharing charging with a roommate, you can have RFID cards so you can sort of track who's using what charging. You can track, you can schedule charging, you can track charging usage, you can monitor it remotely using an app to see what your car is doing. And that's pretty much like all smart chargers can do that. One thing to note though, with any of the smart chargers, the smartness is dependent on having Wi-Fi access. So if it's out in a, like a separate garage from your main house or the carport or something like that, and there's not Wi-Fi coverage, none of those smart features are going to work. So that's something that you want to consider. Another one of our favorites is Emporia. And this charger is the one that was actually on our wall. This is the one that we've been using since we moved in. We really like this one. It has some really cool features, smart features, the same scheduling and all of that other good stuff that we were talking about. You can export your usage data to an Excel spreadsheet. But it also has some features where you can tie it into your energy monitoring system. So like we have solar, you can have it so that if you want to charge your car using the excess solar that you're producing versus sending it to the grid, the Emporia can handle that type of stuff. It's really, really cool feature, and one of the ones that we recommend as well. So Autel is one, Emporia is one. Some other things that I want you to look out for when you are looking at charging equipment, you want to make sure that it's somehow safety certified, whether it's ETL or UL listed. You want some type of safety certification, and if it's not listed, probably don't even want to consider it. You may want to email them and at least ask. And you also want to look at warranties. Most of them come with at least a 2-year warranty. I recommend try to find one that's like 3-year or more warranty, just to give yourself a little bit of peace of mind of how these are going to work. The other thing is like you want to make sure the cables are long enough for your needs. Most of them are at least 18 feet, which is pretty good. Some of them, in fact, I want to show you the last one that we want to talk about is the EV Power. And we're testing this one out now. I've been using it for about a week and a half, and it's by EVco. And this one is sort of unique. First of all, the connector here is a little bit longer than some of the other connectors for connecting it to the wall. It's slightly longer, so that's a little bit of a benefit. The holster is separate on this one, but The cable, I think, is 25 feet. So that gives us a little bit of extra if if you have some type of setup where you need that extra cable length, that's something to look at. But this one it's ETL safety certified, has a lot of smart features, scheduling wise, monitoring it remotely, keeping track of your charging cost. So that's something else. This is another one that we've been impressed with lately as well. Yes, the Mach-E does scheduling, but I like having scheduling on all of the chargers. Part of that is because we review different cars, and like the scheduling on the Nissan Leaf is like really bad. So by having scheduling in the charger itself, that's like another layer of like being able to control when I'm charging. And one of the things that I do, even with the Mach-E, because the Mach-E I can set to charge from like midnight to 6 a.m. when it's cheaper. I set this one to charge from 12:05 to 5:55 a.m. And that way it's sort of like a double layer of like, I'm not going to charge outside of that window. So let's move on to some tips for charging, and we'll hop in the Mach-E. Now we're in our Mach-E. I'm going to show you how to like change some of your charging settings and some recommendations for these settings. So first of all, you go to just like your home button or your apps drawer, click on charging. And first of all, it's just giving me a status. I'm at 89%. I'm at home. It's going to wait until the preferred charge time before it starts charging. It's going to wait till 1 a.m. on Saturday, and it's going to be done at 1:39. It'll only take like a minute for it to actually do it. But anyways, and it's showing me my estimated range right now. I do want to make a comment about the range. This isn't the video to really get into the range stuff, but your range will fluctuate. Like I'll charge to 90%, and in the summer it might be 230 miles. We're in California, so our winter, it's down to 223. If you're in a lot colder climates, it will be even worse. And we will have some fluctuation. So like we're going to do a road trip this weekend. So when we get back the week after, the range at 90% will actually be lower because it's based off of my recent driving history, and I get less range on road trips than driving around town. So if that bothers you, or if you find that it's vastly different, you can press and hold here under EV driving history. It says press and hold to reset. That'll reset your driving history and may give you a bump in range. It's actually not like increasing your range. It's just resetting the calculations of how it does the range estimate. So that's just a note there. Before we get into like how to set your charging limits, let me just say, like on a daily basis, according to Ford, they recommend only charging to 90%. If you have a extended range Mach-E, including GT, the California Route 1, or premiums with the long range battery. If you have a standard range battery, that still holds true unless you have one that's a LFP battery, which they just started selling recently. The only way to really know is like it's the second half of 2023. So if you have a standard range battery made after the middle of 2023, you may have that. You can check your Windows sticker and it's listed there if it's a LFP battery or not. And with those, it's okay to charge to 100% every day. And in fact, Ford recommends at least once a month charging to 100% if you have an LFP battery Mach-E. For the rest of us, we generally only want to charge to 90% on a daily basis. We're getting ready to leave on our road trip on Sunday morning. So Saturday night, I'll charge to 100%. And I try not to do that too often. But if you have to do that, it's not going to like destroy your battery, or all of a sudden you're going to notice a lot of difference. Basically, if you charge to 100% often, it just means it may degrade faster. So you may not notice anything in the 2, 3, 4, 5 years that you own your Mach-E, but when you start getting out to like 8, 9, 10 years, it may have an effect if you charge to 100% often and you have like the old, not the old battery, but the original chemistry battery. If you have LFP battery, again, that's fine. A lot of people ask, should I charge every night or should I just like charge once a week? Because that's how you used to do a gas car. I recommend charging every night. And there's not necessarily any, definitive answer to that. Some people like, I'm just going to charge twice a week or whatever. But the one thing that made me change my mind was somebody in one of the forums, they were charging like once a week, and they usually charged like on Saturday night. Well, on Saturday morning, early in the morning, they got like an emergency call from somebody in their family, and they're like, we need to go get on the road now. And their battery was down to like 25%. It's not that big of a deal, but it meant they needed to hurry to get on their road trip, but they needed to charge before they could really get on the road trip. So for me, I like having my battery charged up to the 90% level so that if there are any situations like that, I know that I'm good to go. And it doesn't do any harm to the car. And it makes sure, like, if I, have, for whatever reason, I, may not be a family emergency, but I may need to like head up to LA or something like that. And I don't want to have to charge just to get there. So, my recommendation is set it to 90% every day. And the way that we do that is actually down here with charging locations. I turned it off. You click on the edit. And like I have one here set for LAX and one here set for home. So at home, I have my charging schedule for weekdays and weekends, and you can set these however you want. I have one set for LAX because we often will leave our car there when we are going out of town. They actually have chargers. That's really cool. But you can basically edit the charging, set your charge limit. Once you set your charge limit, like say 80%, then you can also set the time. So we'll say like at LAX, we'll start at 10 and go to 10. At LAX, it doesn't matter when I'm charging, so I just let it charge whenever. But like if you're at home, a lot of places, it's actually cheaper to charge in the middle of the night. And you'll have to check with your energy provider to see when that is. And you can ask, like here with the San Diego Power, it is, they have multiple programs, and they even have like EV programs where it's even extra cheap to charge at midnight if you have an EV, but it's extra expensive in the afternoon. So you have to weigh the pros and cons when you're setting up your charging schedule. You can set up 2 windows even, so that if you want to charge, 2 different cycles, like for us, like maybe we want to charge in the afternoon as well when we have a lot of solar coming and we want to charge at night. You can set all of these up, and then you can also set up like a weekend schedule that would be a different time frame. Very simple in setting those up. I want to go ahead and back out of this because I don't want to save my settings. Settings will be lost. And then we'll go back out of here. So that's how you can do that. I believe you can set up to like 10 charging locations. The way to add a new location, it's, sort of simple, sort of difficult. If you charge, for example, like a LAX, and then you want to set up a charging location, after you have charged there one time, you hit add location, and it'll recognize like, hey, you just charged at this location. Do you want to add that to your place? The downside is like I can't like pre-set up my charging. So it can be a little bit complicated, but it makes it easy. Like, if I charge at home the first time, even for just a couple of minutes, it recognizes it as a charging location, and then I can add it. So that's a bit about it with setting up your charging schedule. Most places, midnight to 6 a.m. is good. It may be like midnight to 8 a.m. Again, check your local area. The other thing I wanted to cover in here is your departure and comfort. And this can be really helpful depending on where you live and depending on your schedule. So if, say, Monday through Friday, every day at 6 a.m., you head off to work and you want to keep your car at medium, it doesn't have like specifics of what temperature you want your car at. And Ford made a decision. They sort of like, this is supposed to be smart. So medium is like average. But if you want a toasty car, you can set it to warm. If you want a cool car, to set it to cool. And it will basically adjust. And the whole idea is that it'll pick sort of like the right temperatures to set for you. But you can set that up for every morning. Like on Tuesdays, if you leave at 7 a.m. instead, and you want it cool that morning, like you can set all of these departure times. It actually does two things when you have the car plugged in. First of all, it makes the cabin the temperature that you want, but it also will get the battery ready for you. And that's a good thing because it's using energy from the grid to get the car ready. So then, as soon as you unplug, the car isn't having to do all of that work to get the cabin the right temperature as well as the battery. So it should make your range a bit better than not using this. I do want to mention that there is a way, like in the app, to pre-start the car. So like if you're in the house and you're like, we're getting ready to run out in 30 minutes, you can start the car. And it's sort of like the departure and comfort setting, except that it doesn't get the battery ready. It just gets the cabin temperature ready. So there is some benefit to still doing that, besides the fact that you'll have a more comfortable drive, but it doesn't actually condition the battery. Using the departure and comfort here will actually get the battery ready and get the cabin ready. So I love this feature. The fact that we have been working from home, I don't get to use it that often, but I'm going to set one up for Sunday morning so that when we get ready to head out, we'll be very comfortable on our road trip. And that's basically it for setting your schedule. You can also do it in the FordPass app, and I can show you that real quick. We won't go into as much detail, but let me show you how to do that as well. And now I've already brought up the FordPass app. I'm on the vehicle screen. To set the departure times, it's literally just click on departure time, and I can add those in here. I won't go through the details. You can figure this out, but that's where you set your departure times in the FordPass app. Then we're going to go back over here, and then for charging times, I can set the charging times in here. So I can hit like preferred times. And again, like if I need to go ahead and set my max charge level or set the times, I can do that in here. Pretty straightforward, and I actually like doing it in the app versus doing it on the screen, but often it's just where I'm located at, which one I use. If I'm in the house and I need to change the settings here. Here's another thing I wanted to show you is that there are charge logs in the FordPass app as well. So if I click on that, it's basically a log of all of my charging sessions. All of my recent charging sessions have been at home, but it will track like DC fast charging sessions as well. It doesn't keep track of like my home energy costs, but it will show me like information about each of my charges in here and how long it was charging and how much energy I got. Let me click on one and I'll show you real quick. It shows me how many miles added and the total charge time. So it's a decent set of information, but it also illustrates why I like having a smart charger that's also tracking this, because it will give me a little bit more information by showing me the dollar amount for my chargers, charging sessions. I have to actually manually enter in my energy costs. Some of the smart chargers, depending on which one you get, will be able to pull that information in directly from your energy provider. But in any case, it's nice to have that in at least one app. This is great for seeing all of my charging sessions, including the ones like Electrify America and ChargePoint and whatever. So anyways, we're done with the app. I think the final thing I wanted to go over, sort of related to charging, but if you have to leave your Mach-E for an extended amount of time, there's questions like, what should you do? Should you leave it plugged in or not plugged in? I generally like leaving the car plugged in if we're going to be gone for, even just a few days. I don't see any reason why not to keep it plugged in. And that just sort of like makes sure that the connection is there. And if it needs to, connect and get power, it can do that. So I keep it plugged in. Now, Ford recommends if you're going to keep it, in storage for an extended period of time of like 30 days to get the battery charged to around 50%, not 90%, not 10%, but around 50%. And they say if you're going to have it for an extended storage, even consider disconnecting the 12-volt battery, which you'd have to get it to access. It's sort of like right up here under the plastic. You have to open the front and then remove some of the plastic. I've never done that. We've left the car for 3 weeks one time. We kept it right at about 50%, left it unplugged for that 3 weeks, didn't disconnect the battery. I think we lost like 1 or 2% on our high voltage battery, not much at all. And the car, of course, started right up with no issues. There are some other EV brands that they'll lose about 0.5 to 1% per day. So if they're gone for 3 weeks, they've lost like 20% of their battery. With the Mach-E, it actually does a great job. It goes into like a deep sleep. But just for maintenance of the battery, they recommend leaving it at 50%. And, if you don't know, like a lot of these batteries, they don't like being at a real low state of charge and they don't like being at a real high state of charge. So 50% is sort of the sweet spot for that long-term storage. But I think that's about it for our charging overview video at home. I wanted to cover just, a lot of the basics. If you're a first-time Mach-E owner, the main thing to remember is like it's so easy. You just plug in every night. The hardest part is just getting your circuit installed. There are a lot of good EV charger options. I gave you some of our favorites. I recommend doing a smart charger. We like the Autel, we like the Emporia, we like the EVco, EV Power one over here that we're trying out. But there are some good brands out there. You just want to make sure you find one with a good warranty. Don't sweat it too much about your charging. Just set it to 90%, plug in every day, and then you don't have to worry about things too much. So if you have any other questions, feel free to drop them down below or send us an email or send me an email at patrick@machevlog.com. I'll answer it in the comments or I'll answer those emails for you. Check the description for the chargers that we mentioned. Sometimes they run specials. If they do, we'll include the discounts in the description as well. We'll update that. Follow us on Threads and Twitter and Facebook, and we also will, Autel ran like a really, really great Black Friday ad, and we push that out as much as possible because we want to help you guys save money as well. So with that being said, we thank our Patreon members. You guys have been great for supporting us. We're going into another year of making videos, and it's all thanks to your continued support. So thank you to our Whispered, our Engaged, and our Unbridled. I can actually do that here. Whisper. It takes a second. Engage and Unbridled supporters. That's pretty cheesy. But anyways, Liv's laughing at me, and she would say, whatever you drive and however bad you mess up the exit phrase, enjoy the ride. Bye.